Hi, everyone. Welcome to Real Stories of Hurting Moms. My name is Cathy Taylor, and I'm here tonight with my guest, Elsa Mika, and she's up in British Columbia, Canada, right? BC,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm so excited to have her. She's got lots of stuff to talk to us about. Before I turn it over to her, though, I want to tell you a couple of things. Like I always do, I'd love to have you let me know if this is your first time. If it's your first time to watch us, go ahead and put first time. And then also tell us where you're from. Where are you watching from? It's so much fun to see how many different countries, how many different states, how many different provinces are represented on here every week. So let us know where you're watching from and tell us if it is your first time because yeah, I like that. I like it. Um, I kind of want to. The other thing is, if you're in Canada, if you're watching from Canada, would you let Elsa Mika, and she goes by Mika, by the way.
Yeah.
So would you let Mika know? And maybe you could even put the Canadian flag emoji or something like that, just so that she knows that, show some solidarity, Canadian solidarity. And also, before we get started, I want to point out this beautiful thing behind me. See that I have to go, everything's backwards for me. But it's a dandelion with little lights on it that somebody made for me. That it's like the dandelion on our book. The name of our groups are Breaking Free, Hurting Moms, Mending Hearts, Breaking Free, and the dandelion represents that. So I have the whole thing staged so that you can see that beautiful little thing in the vase. I don't know what to call it, beautiful centerpiece. So, one of the things I'm so excited about with Mika tonight is she wrote an article about hurting moms. It was published in Light magazine up in Canada. And we have a link to it above the video tonight. I really want to encourage you to read it. It's such a great article and so encouraging. But Mika, tell us a little bit about that. How did it come about that you wrote an article for her about hurting moms?
Well, I do a bit of writing for this magazine. It's called The Light. I thought I'd bring a copy. So if you
Oh, good.
live in Alberta or British Columbia, it's distributed free, usually in libraries or coffee shops or Christian bookstores and in churches. And I've done some writing in it over the years. And it's fun because I get to feature different stories. Like I did one about Corrie ten Boom and her house in the
Oh,
Netherlands. But this one was really special to me because I went through the Hurting Moms group and it meant so much to me that I wanted to write an article about it. And usually when we do stories, we don't write about our personal experience. We usually write about the other person. But this one, I added my personal story in it because we have two sons in our family who have addictions problems. And everything that I learned from the Hurting Moms was so beneficial to my life. It really helped me to heal from the hurt and pain of having these sons be in their addictions for over 16 years.
wow.
I was able to really move forward and put my trust in God. So I wanted to share that with other people. And the biggest benefit for me was joining a group. And it was last year when my son, my 25-year-old son, he's been dealing with addictions and with mental illness. He was planning to go into a 1-year treatment program. And we had given him an ultimatum and he had everything lined up, and at the very last minute, he didn't go in.
Oh,
And it was so disappointing because I really thought there's no hope left. He's going to die. We have a really big fentanyl crisis here in our area. I live near Vancouver, and there were reports of people dying every month, and especially when the government checks came out. Those it's a Wednesday in the third Wednesday of the month, and when the checks came out, there were people overdosing like every 5 minutes in Vancouver. So I thought, I'm going to lose my son, and I even started to think about preparing for his funeral, and what pictures would I use, and
Mm.
And I had heard about the Hurting Moms. I had ordered your book, Cathy, and I ordered it for a friend of mine as well. And I read through it, and just knowing that someone else had been through the difficulties of having a child in rebellion, it just made me feel like I wasn't alone. And
Yeah.
after our son refused to go into treatment, I knew I had to do something. And I was the big bonus about this group is that it's a Christian group, and we turn to God and we turn to the Bible. We search the Scripture, and we have, not that you have to be a Christian to be a part of the group, but there's hope in that, because I've always put my hope in God's Word. But I had really felt so alone, and not knowing where to turn. And this, when I joined the group, I was just so amazed by how I was able to release my children to God, and find healing before they actually repented, or before they actually changed their lives and got help themselves. And that really was amazing to me. So just to be able to sleep at night, even if your child is on the street, Hurting Moms really helped me with that.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Being in these groups, a lot of people might originally think that they're coming to learn how to fix their kid, and most of us know we've been trying that for a long time, and it doesn't work. But the groups are all about how we can get to a better place. How, like you said, so we can sleep at night, so we can, take our lives back. Basically, learn to have some peace and joy in our lives, and and it is a Christian group. And for me, and when I wrote this, that's the only way I know how to do it. That was where I found my peace. That was where I found my joy, where I was able to learn to trust God with my daughter. And so sometimes we don't know how to do that. It's like, it sounds good, right? Okay, trust God, or surrender them to Him. But so what happens in the 10-week support group is we get tools. That's why we get the tools to use to be able to get better. I really want to encourage anybody that's watching that hasn't been through the support group that Meike was just talking about, that you would really consider registering from. There's a link above, and let me tell you, your registration, if there's not a group in your area, we have online groups, and your registration for that group, it includes your workbook and your online access, and they last for 10 weeks. And when we're online, right now I'm in California and Meike's up in British Columbia, Canada, but we're able to get online together, and you see both of us. And that's kind of what it's like in these online groups. We're all in there together. You can see each other and hear each other. It's really, really easy. If you have a phone, most of you are on here watching this, so that means you have access to the internet, so you can do it. And I know for a lot of us, we get nervous about the technology, but I just really want to encourage you, give it a try, because so much healing takes place, and it's just absolutely an amazing experience. And I've been so blessed to hear about how many moms are finding healing. So you went on to lead a group, right? To co-lead a group?
I co-led a group with Chris, and just talking about going online, it was really easy for me because I live in a rural area. So to drive somewhere after I've driven home from work, I have to drive a half an hour or 45 minutes somewhere if I wanted to join a Naranon group. And this way I could just stay at home. And one time we were actually going to see the fireworks in Vancouver. And so I was part of the group on our phone, and turned the phone off and then went to the fireworks after that. So it's possible. It's really easy to load the Zoom app on your device, and it works really well too. I don't think we had any technical difficulties when we did it. So it's a really nice forum. It's easy to listen to everybody else speak. We all get to take turns. And when I was in the group, the first one, I think you talk a lot about, by the third session, something starts to change. And it's like there's something happens in your brain where you're able to just shift the focus from trying to fix the situation, trying to figure out what to do to fix your child, especially if they're adults already and they're making these terrible choices. You can turn from that and start to live your life again, and it doesn't change the situation with your child, but you're able to live, and it's so freeing. And then through that, you might be able to make better decisions about how to have a relationship with your son or daughter. With one of our sons, he was on the streets quite a bit. He was in the hospital with psychosis because of the drug use, and we didn't drop everything after a while. We were just learned how to let it go and let him figure it out that he needs to get help. And one thing we did do is continue to have a connection with him. We never cut him totally off.
Mm-hmm.
So you learn about that in the study. You learn how to keep connected with your child, but not feel like it's your responsibility to fix their life. So I'm really thankful for that. And like you were saying, Cathy, it's not the Facebook group is not the place where we're having this breaking free group. It's joining an online group, and it's 10 weeks, and it's definitely worth joining. And it's not expensive. I think you just have to purchase the workbook, right? When you
There's the workbook, and I mean, I think it's like there's a small fee for online access, but it's
yeah.
pretty simple.
And I just really appreciated meeting other moms who had maybe different problems than I had with my kids, but we all had this heartache that we just couldn't release. And when we meet together with other women who are hurting, there's this value in the community of just sharing your stories and bringing healing and praying for each other. And I was even worried when I did the second group, what if I feel so burdened by all these moms that, I can't help them, but I can continue to pray for them. But I think that the connection in a community is so beneficial and so healing, that just being together is part of that group. You can't do it on your own.
Absolutely. That's so true. That's what this is all about. And even the Facebook page where we have so many moms tuning in and looking at the posts that we put up every day. It's about being a community. We're not meant to go through this stuff alone. And, I think for so long, and moms that are listening, I'm sure that you can relate to this. And I remember for myself, I didn't talk about it. I didn't tell anybody else because I didn't feel like anybody else understood. And it felt like everybody else had perfect kids. Their kids were all doing everything right. And I just didn't want to tell anybody. I didn't want to talk about it. But we come into these groups, and we come even onto the Facebook, and we realize we're not alone, and we have a place where we can share. And one of my favorite sayings is always, talking about things takes the power out of it.
Yes.
If we hold this pain and this stuff inside of us, it just eats us up inside, and we become crippled, and we become, we just can't, we're paralyzed with fear and with anxiety. I think anxiety is probably the word. If I had to say which emotion was the most prominent for me those years, it was anxiety. I was so anxious all the time.
Yeah.
And as we go through this and just talking about it with other moms who really get it, and the best part about it, nobody judges each other, right? Yeah. I mean, I think that's one reason we don't share about it. Everybody thinks that we're a terrible mom, and we feel guilty, and we are so ashamed. And so when we get in a group together, we find out that we can talk about it, and nobody judges because we're all in the same boat. And
we are. Yeah. I think there's probably more people in the same boat than we know because we don't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And even when I shared the article on my own Facebook page, I put a little disclaimer saying I don't talk about this part of my life on Facebook because there's just too much
Yeah.
too much exposure. But I did share the article, and I just was blown away by how many of my friends, my Facebook friends, commented with kindness and compassion, and many of them had some situation in their life that was also bringing them heartache. And so then it brings you together when you can be open, and you learn you don't have to share everything. There's some things that we just don't share about what happened with our boys, but we can be open about our own lives, that they are struggling and that it is affecting all of us, our family. So
Yeah, it's there's something just so powerful about it. I don't know. I just can't even say it enough. I'm so grateful. And I look at these comments coming up. I was going to tell you, we do have a bunch of we have lots of moms from Canada watching. I was trying to scroll. When you see my arm go up like this, I'm scrolling.
okay.
I'm scrolling in the comments. They were more towards me. If you're in Canada, let her know you're watching because she's in Canada. Okay, so we have Nicole who's in Alberta,
Mm-hmm.
and we have Lori who's in BC. I'm trying, and here's somebody else, Halifax, Miriam. So you got some sisters, some Canadian sisters on here watching.
Yeah.
So yeah, those of you who are watching, let us know again where you're watching from, and I just I really love, we have some other moms we have moms that have been on the radio, for example. I mean, I never knew this was going to happen, but some of the moms that go through groups and become leaders, we've had several moms interviewed on radio stations. And in fact, we have some of those interviews on our website, and you can if you click on media, when you go to the website, you'll see some videos. We have Crystal in Florida who does videos for an organization all the time talking about hurting moms. And so, I mean, I think sometimes, I don't know about y'all, but for me, Jackie from Halifax is on here too. For me, it just encourages me. I mean, it's sad that there's so many of us, but it makes me feel stronger to know that I'm not alone. We come together and we can pray for each other's kids, and pray for each other. And so I just, Renee's on Vancouver Island.
Oh, that's close by.
Is that close by?
Yeah.
And Donna is checking in from Michigan, and Mary in Illinois. We got all kinds of places on here.
Yes.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you read my book, and I told you before we got on here, I said I hate bringing up the book because I want to feel like I'm selling something. Yeah. But I did write my autobiography, and a lot of people tell me they're really encouraged by it. I've got really raw and real in there.
You did. Yes.
I have a whole past. I made a lot of mistakes. A lot of my behavior contributed to my daughter and to what was going on with her. And I had to go through my own recovery, basically, to be able to get to a point where I could talk freely about it. But it's all in the book. And I've had so many people tell me how much they appreciated my vulnerability and transparency. And I want to tell all of you, that's where it's at. I mean, we have to be vulnerable and transparent. And just like Meike was saying, it's not easy to do that with our friends or our neighbors or our co-workers, but but we can with each other. We know that we're being understood, and we know that we're not being judged. We can absolutely share freely like that and be transparent. And even, I wrote that book years after I wrote this program, and even putting that all down, writing my whole story down, I spent about a month and just wrote. It was freeing. And I cried through some of it when I was writing it. You relive things. I cried. But it was so freeing. Lori said, how do we get the book? Lori, it is on Amazon, Cathy. There's also, you can go to our website. There should be a link above this video that you can click on. It'll take you straight to the book.
And it ships to Canada and comes really fast too. So
Yeah, the books have been, that's been really awesome. Yeah, somebody else, Dulce says, hi, Dulce, says online at the Hurdy Moms website. Yeah, so if you go to our website and go to the store, you'll see it there. It's called
Mhm.
The Story of a Hurdy Mom from Broken to Mended. And
I
yes,
think reading your book helped me when I was doing the study because I knew who wrote the study. I knew you, and it felt like you were just my peer, not someone who is clinically telling me what to do without having had all that experience. So
I'm
it
not that
felt like I could trust, yeah, trust what you were saying in the book and trust the process of going through those steps of healing. So it really, yeah, it's good to read the book. It's good to read other people's lives because sometimes you think, what did I do wrong as a mom?
smart.
Why did my kids turn out this way and those kids didn't? And you take the blame on yourself. But then when you hear other people's stories, everyone has a different story, different parts of their lives where they made mistakes, and then other parts where they did everything really well. And yet we're all struggling with these children who are bringing us pain. And we realize that it doesn't really have as much to do with us as we think.
Yeah.
And we learn that God is sovereign in our lives and that He's sovereign in the lives of our children as well, and we can really trust Him with that.
We kind of tend sometimes to get so caught up in how we're feeling and hurt that we have. It's almost like we become victims. We're
Yeah,
not
for
able to
sure.
move beyond that, and it sucks the life out of us and prevents
Yeah.
us from it. It gets in the way of our other relationships. Before I forget, really quick, Renee said, "Can we order the books in Canada?" Yes, you can, and
Mm-hmm.
they'll come up to you. And Gail is on here. My friend Gail is in Ontario, Canada, and she was in a group that I led back when I first started doing one of the very first online groups. I led a couple of them. And Gail, it's good to see you on here. So, but yeah, that I don't know. I don't remember what I was going to say. Go ahead,
Well,
fill in.
I know I was thinking about when how you do the Zoom room.
Yeah,
I remember hearing some moms say they even prefer that forum rather than in person because when you're in a city, small community, or an area where you've lived for a long time, and you're sharing very personal things about your life, you're afraid to share because you think it might get out.
yeah.
But when you're in this group with people from Florida and from California, it's like you feel a little safer and you have this privacy because they don't know anything else about your life. But you feel a little freer to share.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
so there's a benefit to that.
I do. I agree. And, I don't think, I mean, if I'm wrong, anybody's listening, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've done lots of online groups. I mean, we've been doing online groups for several years. And like, for example, there's 8 online groups going on right now. And I don't think it's ever happened that 2 women who knew each other showed up in the same group. Because you're right, you'll have you may have 8 women in a group, and they're going to be from all over the United States and Canada, and it's pretty neat. And then you know what? Not only are you not only are you free to talk about, they become lifelong friends. Like my friend Gail, who's on here, I've never even gotten to hug her. We've never met in person, but we have been online together and we're on Facebook together. And I consider her a dear, dear friend.
Yeah.
So Debbie says it's like a zombie just going through the motions. And yeah, we know. Does anybody else feel like a zombie sometimes?
Yep. I had when my oldest came home high on marijuana the first time, I was so shocked. I don't know why I was so shocked, but my throat closed up and I couldn't eat for a week
Aw.
until I figured out that it was my nerves. It wasn't, some that I was dying of some disease or something. But yeah, you feel sometimes like your head is so full of what's going on with your kids. I remember walking into people in the grocery store with my shopping cart, just kind of running into them and thinking, "Oh, I shouldn't be here because I'm not in a good space." But and thankfully, this group, the Hurting Moms, really helps you to live your life, and there's so much joy in life as well. I have 3 other kids that are doing really great. And I remember my oldest went to jail for 8 months. And when the day he went to jail, I just wanted to go to bed and put the covers over my head and not come out. And then I was laying there thinking, yeah, but my other son, he's got this girl that he's going to propose to, and they're going to get married, and I don't want to miss out on that. So you have really happy, joyful things happening in your life at the same time when very sad things are happening. And uh, being part of this support group has helped me to live with those simultaneously happening in my life, and where I can still rejoice with the good things. And I'm very thankful for that, because otherwise you get so focused on the pain that you don't even see the good things that are happening, and you miss out on wonderful things. So
Yeah, that that's so true. It is true. And I don't, the only explanation that I have for it, because people, I mean, all the leaders, like you said earlier, leaders all tell me that about week 3 or 4, the group lasts for 10 weeks, the support group lasts 10 weeks. And about week 3 or 4, all of a sudden, you start seeing everybody change. Something happens where they start changing. And the only explanation is God, because
yes.
it isn't like I had a big plan, like, you know what, I'm going to make it so they change. I mean, it's all happening. And it's just amazing. Gail said, like giving attention back to her other son and her grandchildren. And that's so true. We miss out on so much when we're so focused on the one. And so it takes time. I do want to encourage you, ladies. This is a process. It isn't an overnight. It's not like you're going to sit here and hear us right now and then go, okay, that's it, I'm just going to let go. You do need the tools that you'll get in the Hurting Moms Mending Hearts, and they're called breaking free groups, by breaking free from that pain, from the shame, from the guilt, and just to be able to live your life. And so again, there's a link above. You can click on that. Somebody just asked, how do you, when are the groups starting? There's groups starting all the time. We have a group starting April 16th. We have 3 groups starting in May. We have 1 so far starting in June, maybe another one in June. I was talking to Meike about that earlier, leading a group. So I just want to encourage you. There's online groups starting all the time. We also have a map on our Facebook page. That will show you where there's local groups. So we're still just growing and getting started. I think there's like 53 groups, local groups around the US and Canada. So you can check in case there's one in your area. And I think eventually we're going to have local groups everywhere. But for now, at least we can be in online groups. And again, your registration for an online group, it covers your workbook and your online access, and it's easy to do. So
I really want to encourage any women that are watching who haven't been through a group, please join. There's so many different times and days available that one of those should fit your schedule, and it really is amazing. I at one point I thought, this is going to cause a shift in the way, because we're dealing with drug addiction, this is going to cause a shift in the way we deal with drugs and we deal with addicts, because we learn to let go. And so we learn to change our attitudes towards those kids that are hurting us. And so please join a group. Don't hesitate. And if you're shy, you're not going to be forced to pray out loud if you don't want to, but it's always appreciated though.
Yeah. And I will say too, I went, and we got to wrap up here, but I want to say there's a link above for the article, a fabulous article that Meike wrote for the Light magazine in Canada. And so click on that link and read the article, because it really beautifully expresses her feelings and how she, what she got out of being in a group. And I just think it's really an encouraging article. So with that, we got to sign off. But
Okay.
so grateful for all of you that are on here tonight. Just want to let you know, I say this but it's so true. I pray for you every day. I wake up in the morning praying for hurting moms. I go to bed praying for hurting moms. I'm thinking about you. I read your comments. Meike's going to read your comments and be answering your comments later on. And I just want you to know we are all in this together. You're not alone. You got people praying for you and supporting you. And hi, Jean. And we just, we're all together. This is a community, and my dream, and actually our mission statement is about hurting moms all over the world getting into community and moving towards hope and healing. So that's what it's all about. And so love you all. Wish you well. Have a good week and weekend. We didn't even talk about Mother's Day, but we're going to start talking about that. We're moving towards Mother's Day. Be thinking this week, ladies, about what it is. I know a lot of us dread Mother's Day, have a dread in our hearts, and we're going to talk about that next week. And be thinking about what is it exactly that we're dreading? What is it? Why do we have that feeling of dread when we think about Mother's Day? So be thinking about that, and we're going to talk about it next week. Take care. See you later. Meike, thank you so much for being on here with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's great. Bye-bye, everybody.